We're back. We got a special one. We're going to do a twofer. That's right. Normally you have to pay extra for that, but not today. Not with yours truly. I'm a cheap date. So we're going to do the ethics committee, and then we're going to do the public works because what's going on is kind of tied into it. And we're not going to do the first like 11 or 12 minutes of the public works department because it has to do with some kind of fiber optic thing. No, we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of it. But let's just get into it. So if those who forgot, the amendment that they're going to be talking about in the ethics committee is about the transparency going on in city government. And I will post a link or maybe even a picture of what they want to be stricken out of the amendment. And basically what it is, they don't want to bring up what stocks they have related to money given from the city government. But let's just get to it.
Tonight we have one item on the agenda, proposal number 284, 2024, which amends Chapter 151, Article 11, Ethics Code for Counselors of the Revised Code. Just for an update to anybody in the public, this we voted on last committee meeting and sent to the full council, and there were some questions that we had not thought about, and so we've now discussed those, and there is an amendment on the floor. I take a motion. Councilor Bain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A motion to amend proposal 284 by deleting the language that is double stricken through and highlighted. That includes funds shall also include any identifiable or ascertainable stock of an entity doing business with the city purchased by or on behalf of the councilor, and I so move.
Second.
Councilor Bain.
Yeah, so just to briefly describe the amendment, we had a lot of back and forth in full council 2 Monday nights ago, and just really decided that it'd be easier at this time to remove the stock portion, as much as a lot of us would like to keep that in there, and just move forward with the rest of the proposal, which is still a really good idea. And I think, we can all have the commitment to continue the discussion around the stocks, see if there's a way for us to come up with some language that makes the most sense. But for now, I agree with that. It's okay to go ahead and take this out because the rest of the proposal still does a lot in the form of transparency on behalf of councilors and our
transparency for me, baby.
Ethics disclosure statements.
Thank you. Any other comments from councilors? Okay, seeing none, we will vote on the amendment as proposed. So all those in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. And now we move to vote on the proposal, the amended proposal to send to the full council.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Well, okay.
Yes, sir, we do. So we are a body of 6, so 4 gets it. Yes, thank you. So I will take a motion to vote. Councilor Bain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to send proposal 284 to the full council with a do pass recommendation.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Oh, so 284 is amended. Would you restate that, Councilor?
Yes, move 284 as amended.
Okay, second. Perfect. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. So we will take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. If there is nothing else on the agenda, the chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Boom, there you go. 3 minutes. I think the whole video was 3 minutes and 23 seconds after introductions. But then they had the public works meeting like right after. That was all on the same day. Now, this is fine, by the way, because this gives them time to redo the language, to kind of expose the whole stock thing as well, to really get into the nitty gritty of it. I mean, we know Miss Gary's going to have a problem with Leroy Robinson, John Barth, definitely Ron Gibson. And that's okay, because as long as I can get information and it's public, we can expose all of this. And here's why. I was doing a little bit of digging yesterday. Also, I found 2 more people that got money from Thomas Cook. And I remember seeing something. Yeah, here we go. Bring this up to the screen. Biggity bam. All right, so I believe this was Vop Osley that got, let me make sure all correct. Okay, cool. I kept seeing Weston Property Management in the campaign reports, so I Googled it, couldn't really find anything. But look, 25K, 25 big old smackaroos. So I looked into it. Weston Property Management in Indianapolis, registered agent, Taft Service Solutions Corporation. Well, who's Taft? Taft is a major law firm in Indianapolis. Big time Democrat donor. So if any of you are out there snooping around the campaign reports and you see Weston Property Management, they are just a affiliation with Taft. Very surprising, not surprising. So let's get into the ethics. Nope, DPW.
Good evening and welcome to our Public Works Committee.
Kristin Jones, if you're watching this video, I still haven't gotten a reply back from you. There was a person that talked to me. He had his mirror knocked off 15 times and trying to figure out what we can do about this street. Maybe put a speed limit in there, put a bump. Who knows? But just reply back to me. Stop being a coward.
2024. We will begin with introductions to my counselors on the front row.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike Dilk, District 24.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Josh Bain, District 21.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian Mowry, District 25.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nick Roberts, District 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andy Nielsen, District 14.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dan Boots, District 3, Northeast Side.
Good evening, Chairwoman Jones. Crista Carlino, District 11, Far West Side.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Jessica McCormick, District 16, West Side.
Thank you, and I am Counselor Kristin Jones, District 18, and we also have a Mr. Gibson. Counselor Gibson, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, Ron Gibson, District 8.
Thank
This
you.
pompous
we have
asshole.
a special counselor as our guest this evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Carlos Perkins.
Doctor of Ministry. Never forget. If you're having a heart attack, he's not the guy.
District 6.
Thank you. We will start with proposal number 257,
All right, we're going to
2024,
skip
which
through
we're
this. I believe it's
here
here.
to make our presentation.
Yeah, here we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the committee, for your time and willingness to discuss this proposal. Proposal 306, as Chairwoman Jones mentioned, reallocates $225 million from certain departments within the city budget to the Department of Public Works for the use of road and bridge repair. And
All right, so let's just break this down now. We're going to set the stage. So basically, this proposal would take money from different departments and then put them into DPW so we can start getting these roads fixed. Now, what I'm be asking is like, well, don't you already set a budget? You do. But a lot of this money isn't being used, and so it gets floated off to other crap or into dumbass projects like what's the new one right now? There's like those big transformer boxes. Well, they're wanting to paint them or graphic them so they don't have like gang symbols on there. Apparently, it's supposed to help reduce violence. No. It's a giant waste of money. So stuff like that. There are some departments that will be excluded, like IMPD, fire. I think a couple, but they'll talk about it. But one would have to say, hey, DPW, don't you want an extra $225 million? And hey, people of Indianapolis, wouldn't you want DPW to have an extra $225 million so they can actually fix the roads? That would be nice.
you should have a presentation in front of you. It'll also be on the screen that our clerk will be navigating for us. So if we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. So I just want to start with this slide, which I think is one of the most infamous slides ever presented to the City County Council. And this comes from the HNTB study that was done roughly 5 years ago. Unfortunately, we don't have more current data than that, or if it's out there, it hasn't been made public yet. But you see the 5 columns here.
So I'm going to talk about this right now, only because it's a little bit of a side quest. So HNTB is this infrastructure in Indianapolis, and I'm pretty sure H&TB Holdings is the PAC for the corporation. So H&TB, if I am right, if I'm wrong, someone please correct me, but H&TB gave Holcomb $50,000 back in like 2022. I was like, why is he getting that much money? It's not even an election year. Well, then, as a matter of fact, not long after that, HNTB got a giant contract from INDOTS so they can do this study called Propel Indy. And basically, it's, hey, what can we do to make things better for the highway? So do you want sidewalks? Do you want better lighting? That kind of stuff? Do you want more connectivity? So when I talk about handshakes and hand jobs, that's another clear example. But they've also given money to Democrat donors as well. You'll have to go through go through the transparency. I think it's USA Transparency, and then you can see who they've been donating money to.
And you see the average annual funding gap at the bottom. And what the HNTB study did, it was HNTB, local engineering firm here in Indianapolis. It was an asset management study that looked at all the roads, bridge, thoroughfares, things like that in our city, and came back to us with a few scenarios about how we can address the infrastructure needs in our city. So this comes from, this was using 2020 numbers and everything, and this is in reference to the 2021 budget that was passed in 2020. So you'll hear me reference the term $170 million throughout this slide. $170 million is what we spent on infrastructure back in 2021. So when you look at the average funding gap on the bottom, that number is in addition to the $170 million. So you can see, in column 1, it's recommended work for roadway and bridges. Column 2, it talks about pavement, walls, culverts, signal signs, and everything. But then you can see the other 3 on the right. And scenario 2 and scenario 3 are the ones that I want to call a lot of attention to, as well as that in column 2, because you can see where it talks about planning for the future at the bottom. And you can see the 3 check marks there on the far right 3 columns, where that's basically what it would take for us to actually start seeing improvements in the city. So the column 2 there, the 195 million on top of the 170, that's basically what we have to spend in order just to maintain our current road funding. And you can see column 3 where it talks about 230 million. Again, that's needed on top of the 170. And a couple things to point out here is the fact that this is pre-inflation numbers, and it also doesn't take into account the amount of demand there is for infrastructure materials in central Indiana, because you look at all the work that the airport's doing, all the work the INDOT's doing here with the interstates coming through. So not only do we have to take inflation into account, we also have to take into account the increase in demand for materials that, again, we really don't have a good way to calculate that. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see I've crunched some numbers here for us. And again, to take care of what we have, it was 195 million.
I'm going to hide right now so you guys can see the numbers.
Million on top of the 170 million, which was the 2021 funding, which brought us to 365. We adjust that for inflation, it's $444 million is how much we have to spend on infrastructure if we want to see the condition of our roads stay stagnant, which is really just a mind-boggling number to think about. Because if you look at our capital plan now, if we look at what's specifically dedicated for roads, bridges, streets, it's around $130 million. And again, it's saying that we have to spend $444 million just to maintain. And this is a conservative number because, again, we really don't have a way to calculate that supply and demand issue we have with the airport and NDOT that we have to compete with for the materials. You look at scenario 2, where you actually have to start talking about thoroughfare improvements. If we want to see improvements for our thoroughfares, it's $486 million a year that we have to fund our infrastructure. You look at scenario 3, which includes thoroughfare and residential, it's almost $1 billion that we would have to be spending next year. And again, that doesn't even take into account the 5th column on the HNTB slide, which talks about sidewalks and pedestrian paths. because that was $1 billion 5 years ago. So you can see just how daunting of a task this is. So what Proposal 306 does, if we can go to the next slide, creates two buckets of funding. And the proposal refers to them as exempt departments and non-exempt departments. Exempt departments are those things that I would consider the basic, absolute necessity of city government, which is public safety and infrastructure. So in the exempt department's budget, it's things like IMPD, IFD, MESA, which answers all our 911 calls, prosecutor, public defender, OPHS, and of course, Department of Public Works. Non-exempt departments is going to be everything else. And if we can go to the next slide. For the 2025 budget, the non-exempt department's portion is $775 million. You know, you might ask, well, where'd you come up with the $225 million number? It wasn't just something that, I picked out off a hat or, something I just randomly came up with. What I'd be proposing to do is we take those non-exempt departments back to 2020 levels of funding. And I do want to be very clear that for me, it's not a reflection on the work those departments do.
It is for me.
Or their performance or anything like that.
It is for me. Most of those departments are garbage.
For me, it's just about setting our priorities about what are the main functions of city government.
Which is a great question, because do we need the Office of Minority and Women, I think? Office of Minority Business Owners or whatever, the XBE department? Does Benjamin Tapper, the DEI director, does he need to be there? Office of Sustainability, does that department need to be there? I mean, you got a handful of departments that do not provide anything extra for the city. And when we talk about like some of these other things, not even just departments, but you look at Spark and Monument Circle, the resources that are being put over there, not just DPW, but also IMPD to make sure that those homeless people aren't raping anybody. Oh, you don't believe me? Why don't you go into the sexual offenders list in Marion County and see how many people are in that circle of within a mile of Monument Circle. It's like an astronomical number.
For me, it's public safety and infrastructure. So that $225 million that is freed up would then be allocated to the Department of Public Works for road, bridge, maintenance and repair work. It does give the controller, however, discretion on how to pull that funding.
And this is the most important part. It gives the controller the broad discretion. If you don't have it, you don't have it. But at least, and don't forget, the controller is appointed by the mayor. I mean, and then it's approved by the council. But overall, like, most of these people are going to get approved.
It doesn't necessarily mean that all departments do have to go back to 2020 levels of funding. If there's one department that can withstand a little bit more than another, they have broad discretion on pulling that funding. Again, it's not absolute discretion because there is that barrier there that we have with the exempt departments. We can go to the next slide. So next year, we've allocated roughly $135 million, $135 million for infrastructure. Proposal 225 adds $225 million to that, giving us a total of $360 million. And again, this is a conservative approach to tackling this issue because again, we need $444 million just to maintain our current conditions. And that's why I highlighted that here again, because I think we need to keep those numbers in mind, when it comes to maintaining current conditions, thoroughfare improvements, plus our residential improvements. So
let's not forget too, right now the overall budget for the city, I think is like $1.6 billion. I think it was 1.5 last year.
We can go to the next slide. Over the past couple of weeks, I've had a lot of people ask me, well, Josh, how can we get to the 444? How can we get to those other numbers when your proposal doesn't even get us to where we need to be to maintain current road funding? And we usually talk about infrastructure in the terms of like a 5-year capital plan. So what I would recommend doing is, next year we are taking those non-exempt departments back to 2020 levels of spending.
Oh man, this is so fucking based. Oh man, this is so awesome.
Or at least something equivalent to that. The following year, what I would recommend doing is taking those non-exempt departments and again asking for a 5% reallocation to the Department of Public Works. And I won't go through all this because you have all the numbers there in front of you. You get the gist of what this is doing, but you'll also see that there's an additional $22 million at the end of that for 26 through 29. And that is that our city budget grows on average by about $54 million a year. If you look at our past budgets over the past 10 years, they've grown by an average of $54 million. Over half of that goes to public safety. It's been consistent over the past 10 years. Over half of that, $54 million, goes to public safety. And what we're going to do, or I would propose doing, is we would take that additional growth, say $22 million a year, and we would allocate that specifically to DPW for road, bridge, infrastructure improvements. I do want to point out, though, you're not voting on this slide tonight. This slide is just there to answer the question of, well, what are you going to do in the future? And if we can go to the next slide.
Because here's the deal. They have no plan right now. And from a guy like me who has been watching all of these committee meetings, the biggest question, like Dan Boots or Andy Nielsen keep asking is like, how are we going to be able to fund the city? Well, the only way is to either increase taxes or increase fees or both, which that's most likely what will happen. And I can guarantee you this, I can promise you this right now, they are going to waste every single dollar of yours. Because there are so many, especially with these budget meetings, constantly talking about equity. It's like, hey, you know what? A department or a certain office needs furniture. Well, can you go to a black-owned business or a veteran-owned business or a woman-owned business and pay twice as much for furniture than you would, say, at IKEA or something? No. We got to make sure that these equity numbers are all taken care of. You know, that's what I mean by wasting money. Or when you have DEI training in DPW. There's no reason for it. Just fix the fucking potholes.
If you notice, in 2027, that's when we would break that $444 million number. And that would be the first year where we would be able to go tell our constituents roads will be in better condition next year than they are this year. So I think that'd be really exciting for us. And it would it's also important to point out, a lot of these reallocations would just be temporary because it's a lot more efficient to maintain a newer road than it is an older road. And I'll just pick some numbers out here for a brief example. But if you have 100 feet of pavement and it's 3 years old, it could cost you $100 to maintain that 100 feet of pavement that's 3 years old. However, if that same pavement's 15 or 20 years old, that number grows exponentially. And it could cost you $5,000 to maintain that. So once we actually get our infrastructure into a position and our funding into a position where we're able to adequately maintain our newer infrastructure, that's when we could really start making some historic investments into things that I would consider more the accoutrements of city government, the things that may not necessarily be a basic function that we have to perform, like infrastructure and public safety.
Hey, but don't tell Democrats that. They want way more government in your life. I mean, like every single thing. That's why, this is my theory, by the way. This is why I think these stand-down orders from Chris Bailey and Hogsett are just like, no, we're going to allow these criminal scumbags to totally cause havoc in Indianapolis. We're going to make, Ryan Mears is going to make sure that he does plea deals with these pedophiles and rapists, or that one dude who tried raping a dead corpse. You know, let's give him a plea deal. Let's get him back on the street as soon as possible, because the whole point is to have a security state. And I personally think, they're going to make Miles Square into like their pilot program, which is why they're having the EED thing over on Miles Square. But if you get more security states, you feel more safe, right? Even though you're not more safe, because all you need is accountability. That's literally all you need to do.
And on the next slide, I just want to wrap up here with a quick timeline of this, because I want to make sure everybody knows that we do have time to do this. The proposal was introduced on Monday, September 9th. We're hearing it tonight, obviously, on the 19th. And should it receive a due pass recommendation tonight, it would then go.
This is what was throwing me off. I thought the ethics was the following week, but they actually moved it on both
back to full council for a vote on the 23rd. Should it receive a favorable vote on the 20th?
Oh Oh, man. Are you kidding me? Oh, man. I didn't know there's a full council meeting on the 23rd. How are you having two of them in the same month?
23rd, review and analysis portion of the
Are they
budget
going on the
process
23rd?
begins on September 24th, leaving us
Oh.
adequate time to make any
Okay.
necessary adjustments to the budget. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Counselor Bain. Comments and questions from counselors? Chairwoman Carlino.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Counselor Bain, for your presentation and your analysis and your percentages as you look into the future. I know you've worked really hard on this. My question is really a high-level one, and maybe could drill into Section 2 a little bit, Counselor, but my question is, as we know, a lot of our agency budgets have multiple funding sources, and some of those funding sources aren't necessarily determined by the controller. So I just wanted to clarify, are you seeking for a specific reduction in terms of funding being pulled from a variety of agencies out of the county general fund that are currently allocated to them?
I mean, that's what does it look like, Carlino? Does it look like we can touch federal funds? No, we can only pull out what the city has.
Yeah, and I sat down with our council staff and everything on this, and to just be completely frank with you, the council is not equipped to do an actual amendment to the budget ordinance itself, because if you look at the budget ordinance, it's a super long document, it's very complicated, and we're just not equipped to make an actual amendment to the budget, which is why we're doing this, and the timeline worked out really well. But to answer your question, that's why we're giving the controller discretion, the controller's office discretion on this, because at the end of the day, no one should really know the budget better than them and know what appropriate adjustments that we can make.
Madam Chair, have you, and forgive me for not having dedicated enough time to comb through the budget book and parse out the allocations of just county general specific budgets, but is it feasible? Have you done like an initial pass through, precluding those exempt agencies to sort of see if the dollars and cents are there?
Oh, they're there.
And I'm just genuinely asking because I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I have had many conversations with members of the administration about this that have been very productive. I do think we have all the same goal of wanting to see our infrastructure get better, but as far as going into the specific dedicated funds and everything, that would require a lot more work on behalf of the council office. And so I think that's something that tees us up perfectly for the review and analysis portion, which would begin truly the day after we would pass this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councilor Bain.
Hey, you know what? This is my biggest question. Why is Josh Bain the only one bringing this up? Where's Mowry? Where's Dilk? I mean, we keep talking about these budget problems and like how we're going to have the money to fix the roads. And, I already know Democrats, one of these people are going to bitch about the road funding. And guess what? The road funding still won't get us there. Not anywhere close, actually. So, you're going to have to come up with a different plan, something out of the box, and just ask yourself, what is the role of local government? Well, government in general, let's just talk Indy for an example. It's like, do we need these extra departments? This money that they're having, do we need it? It's like, is it a net positive? Because I don't see a lot of these departments being a net positive.
Thank you. Any other? Chairwoman McCormick?
Fiona?
Thank you.
Hey, you notice that Fiona hasn't dyed her hair red anymore? I wonder if she's been watching my videos.
Madam Chair,
Now she just looks like Ursula. Ursula McCormick. Oh no. Oh no, she ate the Little Mermaid.
so my question is kind of piggybacks on, we know that we can't touch all dollars, right? So for DMD, which isn't included, they have dollars for federal dollars for HAFWA. So there are other organizations. So there's those funds. So they're within the non-exempt, right? So that non-exempt group, there's money that we can't touch. So we're looking at cutting. But even if we ignore that part and say that we can work with all of it, When you take out the exempt group, we're looking at $621 million. And if we would take $225 million from that, we're taking 36% of their budgets. So what we're looking at is not cutting the $1.6 billion budget.
Oh, no.
$225 million. We're looking at cutting $621 million by 225, so by 36%. And of that $621 million, we know there is money that
Oh,
cannot
no,
be
Ursula.
earmarked for specific expenses, specific services by federal, state agencies, and we can't touch that money. So we know it's even less. So we're looking at cutting some of our departments, and what's not included, the sheriff's office is not included, the superior courts, the circuit courts, corrections, forensics, our coroner's office, our ambulance, IEMS service is not included, as well as our other offices where we would get permits to do work and projects so we can continue doing construction in our communities.
Let me just stop you there, Ursula. Well, first off, it's like I said at the very last slide, discretion is up to the comptroller, okay? Second off, Ursula, BNS is not even doing their job right now anyway. They are not releasing permits. Why do you think that one DEI woman is moving her operation to Hamilton County? It's because Marion County sucks at it. Indianapolis is terrible about permits. And you can say it's like, oh, you just want to make things worse. No, now we make them do their job.
So folks can file and get birth certificates, or they can get a marriage certificate, or this year, so they can
Most of that
have
stuff
free
is
and fair
done
elections.
online.
So
Okay.
we really need to look at
Wait,
what
hold on,
we're
what was
getting
that
into
last
and
part?
the
I wanna
dollars we're
hear her
talking
see
about. So folks can file and get birth certificates, or they can get a marriage certificate, or this year, so they can have free and fair elections.
Oh my God, there it is, folks. Free and fair elections. Hold on. I need fair and free elections.
So we really need to look at what we're getting into and the dollars we're talking about and the impact that we're going to make, because yes, there are what we want to say fun things that we get to do in this city for our community and our members, but the non-exempt, there is essential work that has to be done, and so the dollar.
Wait a minute. According to you, Ursula, back in 2020, only some people were essential.
We're looking at is what services do you want to see cut and no longer available or have to wait longer for? Thank you.
This woman would lose so bad in a debate. This is why she can't. This is why she doesn't want to debate Mike Young, by the way. She'll just go out there, put out her propaganda, her marketing of like, oh, but where's the money going to come from? Well, guess what? Why don't we hold some of these departments accountable? You can get rid of a lot of them.
Thank you. I'm going to let Councilor Bain address that first. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I agree. It's a really tough discussion to have, but it's the discussions that we're elected to have, and no one wants to see drastic cuts to other city services.
Nobody.
But we do at the end of the day have to have a very frank and open discussion about what our priorities are as a city, and for me the message that's been made loud and clear is that you have to do the basic two right, which is infrastructure and public safety.
That's it.
And one thing just to call out on, whether or not we're moving too quick or something like that, when Mitch Daniels became governor of Indiana, over his first term, he cut state departments by close to 40%.
Bam. And just like Elon with Twitter.
And yet services improved.
Ta-da.
At the beginning of COVID, the state of Indiana, Governor Holcomb, issued an executive order that mandated every state department other than Department of Education cut their budget by 15%. And that was almost overnight. And every one of them did it without someone losing a job or without us seeing a decrease in services. But I do appreciate your comments. I know it's a tough predicament, but I think it's almost more dangerous for us not to do something.
All you have to do is tell your constituents, Ursula and fake Barbie, is what do you care more about, DEI training or blowing out your tire? That's all you have to ask them.
If I could, Madam.
Oh, here we go. I can't wait
I
for
agree.
this.
So as you and I talked had a conversation offline about this, I appreciate where you're going, and where this is. Again, it's that timeline, and this proposal doesn't give us as the council that authority to make those decisions on what the budget cuts are. We're giving that to, while she is, our controller is that expert in that area, we were elected to do that, and we also have to fill these services too. So that's why for me, it's the timeline
It's the
and the breadth
comptroller. I
and
thought it
the
was a
depth
dude.
that like needs more of a conversation than I'm comfortable with. Thank you.
Counselor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Bain, I really appreciate
What? Mr. Bain? It's not Mr. Bain. It's Counselor Bain, motherfucker. No. No. Listen, mascot. Listen. Am I right? Ah. Hey, Mr. Bain. I'm a big dumb dipshit.
your coming up with alternative funding in terms of infrastructure.
Hold on. Okay.
And I certainly appreciate your priority in terms of infrastructure funding. However, your proposal would gut city services. And we are operating in a pretty fiscal responsible way, and meaning that we often are offering really on shoestring budget, where we're really stressed in terms of paying our employees livable wages, and there's so many different agencies, departments within the city that we need to really improve wages.
By the way, it's profile
My
pic, you
question to you,
freaks.
Mr. Bain, is there other alternatives that you explored? What about us pursuing the Indiana General Assembly in terms of possibly getting additional funding there?
Oh, there it is.
Over the years.
There it is.
The General Assembly has been working with the city in terms of trying to get there, which we really admire, especially with the difference between the parties. But
Listen, why wasn't the formula changed when Democrats were in control then? Why was it never changed? Why don't you ask yourself that? And I understand, like, Josh Bain has to play this game because it's supermajority Democrats in the council, but I'm calling it out. I'm not part of the council. Why didn't they do anything back then? Just like right now, why wasn't anything changed in the last 4 years?
that's a particular topic that we could
Six Flags looking
the General
motherfucker.
Assembly and even our body can kind of agree on that. There needs some improvement there. So I appreciate thoughts there in terms of could we consider other ways of funding versus gutting city services.
Counselor Bain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Councilor Gibson, I have considered a lot of those. The two kind of bumpers or guardrails, you could say, I put on this proposal is no new taxes. This proposal does not recommend a tax increase. It does not raise taxes. And then number two, I think we have to be realistic in our expectations from the General Assembly. I will be first in line to tell you that the road funding formula is unfair. If there's a public hearing over there in the State House about the road funding formula, I will go there. I would be happy to be first in line to testify that road funding formula change and treat us fairly. But I think we have to recognize the political will and the fact that there's 150 legislators over there. If we do the math, probably 130 of them don't live in Marion County, and a lot of them represent rural districts. And what we would be asking them to do is take money from their districts, their constituents, their taxpayers, their neighbors, and give it to us. And I don't think that's going to happen. I've been on the council.
And he's right. He's 100% right. I don't know if it was this year or last year, there was a town hall with Andrea Hunley, the Senator Hunley. And she was like, we can, move the money from there into Marion County. So basically what Democrats are saying to rural voters, we want your money to go to Marion County. Screw the rural voters. You can get your money some other way.
I think it's 4 years next month. And since my time on the council, and even before that, when I used to work at the General Assembly, I always heard about, yeah, we're working on the road funding formula. We're working on it. We're going to get something done. But it's never happened. And I think we have to recognize that it's more of a hypothetical that it does change. And so I think we're in a situation where we have to recognize that we're going to be on our own on this. You know, whether or not we're able to pick around the edges and see if the state can maybe take back state roads inside 465, I think that's something that we need to look at.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe take Washington or Kentucky Ave. I mean, even like past 465 on Rockville, that's state controlled, which you can tell by the plow job.
And no other city in Indiana, as far as I'm aware, does a municipality have to maintain state roads inside their city limits. In Indianapolis, we do. We have to maintain Rockville Road, which is State Road 36, Kentucky Avenue in my district, which is State Road 67. That's why you'll notice like some of these roads, the names of them change once you get inside 465. It's because it becomes city responsibility. So, and this one other thing I wanted to respond to as well, to the previous statement, was talking about how, you know, maybe we're pushing too much work onto the controller's office and, you know, giving them the authority. Ultimately, we still have to pass the budget. The budget's something we pass. The budget's something we work through through the review and analysis portion of the budget calendar. So we're certainly not shifting our responsibility away. My hope is in the weeks after we would pass this next Monday is that we would continue to work arm in arm with them to implement this.
Plus, like, Marion County and Marion County Democrats need to stop throwing all their eggs in one basket. It's like, if we just had the road funding, that's still not going to solve all of it. So they're going to have to come up with different ways of funding it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I, too, congratulate you, Councilor Boehner, on the work here. And obviously, you've taken it quite seriously, and we all appreciate that. Just a couple of clarifying questions for me, if I may. That HNTB slide, the infamous slide, if you will, those are annual numbers, correct? Or are they one-time single lump sum numbers?
They are annual numbers. Whether or not that was done in maybe like, you know, a 10-year term, because I know a lot of studies and things like this are done, like, you know, this is what it would cost you every year for 10 years. You know, that I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, it is an annual number as presented back in like 2021.
Okay, and then with respect to projecting forward in years, 26 and 27, can you go back and just clarify again what your expectation is that would happen in 26 and 27 and those years beyond?
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if it would help if maybe we could go back to the slide titled Next 5 Years of Road Funding. Yeah, right there. So this idea originally came to me back in like 2010 when it was cool to look at spending and possibly cutting spending and living within your means. There was a congressman from Florida that had a plan to balance the federal budget, and it was called the Connie Mack Penny Plan. His name was Connie Mack. And what he proposed was, so he proposed in 2010, he said, we'll flatline spending in 2011 for 2010 budget allocation, and then every year you would cut 1 penny from every dollar that's spent. And in 7 years, you had a balanced budget. And so I'm taking kind of a hybrid approach to that because unfortunately we do have to be a little bit more aggressive to get to where we need to be than cutting 1%. So I'm showing you in bold here what the annual spend would be for infrastructure. So 2025 would be $360 million. That's taking the 135 plus the 225 that we're allocating and everything. And then in 2026, we keep that same non-exempt department budget, and we would reallocate 5% from that. It's only $27.5 million, so it's not a massive amount of money once we get to these latter years. But that brings us to $387.5 million. And then I explained how we have the budget growth of roughly $54 million a year. Over half of that every year gets allocated to public safety. we continue that allocation to public safety. I don't want to change that, especially as, contracts come and everything, and we know we're going to have to pay our IMPD officers more. So we're going to keep that growth steady for public safety. Again, being one of the most basic functions of city government. That additional $22 million, though, that's left over, if you look at what the average leftover would be for non-exempt departments, that gets allocated to DPW for the use of road, bridge, street repair, and maintenance. And again, 2027, instead of 5%, it's 4, 28, 3, 2029, it's 2%. So it decreases year over year.
What's your base number, though, when we're looking at 26, 27, 28, 29? I mean, those numbers are obviously unknown at this time and are subject to various factors that may increase or decrease them.
Yeah, so it's really similar to how, we have a capital plan now. Yeah. We have a capital plan, we map that out. I did this to show how we can get there. And again, we're not voting on this tonight, but
and that's a great point too. It doesn't have to be this exact way. It just gets the conversation going. That's literally this whole thing is about just getting the conversation going.
Did want to make sure I answered the question of, well, your $360 million, which is what the base number would be for next year's budget. That's what proposal 306 would do. It would say next year road funding is going to be $360 million. In 2026, we're adding that $22 million. We're adding that $22.7 million. We're going to make it 409.5. And then again, that's where we'll start in 2027, and so on and so on.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Councilor Perkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councilor Baines, for, I think we all agree that our infrastructure need some work. I think we hear from our constituency.
What are you looking at? Huh? You on Instagram? Oh, he's on Instagram right now. What are you doing, huh? I might have to zoom in.
Every day.
Come on, camera. All right, hold on.
About the infrastructure that we currently work with. But if I look at this proposal, in addition to what Councilor McCormick just shared, we're looking at a 36% cut just for 2025. And if I look at those numbers, by the time we get to 2029, you're looking at another 14%. So in fact, we're looking to cut city departments by about 50% between now and 2029. I don't think that's what the residents of Indianapolis and Marion County desire. I don't think that will provide the services that we need for our community to not only be safe, but also that we're addressing some of the root causes of some of the challenges that we face.
Oh my God, this dope. This absolute dope. The root causes. The root causes. The root causes of what? You live in the most criminal infested neighborhood, my man. And what do you mean? It's like, I don't think the city voted for this. Yeah, well, most of the city is full of dopes. That's why you guys are voted in. Why don't we start doing an IQ test for Democrat voters and, for everybody. And I guarantee you Democrats would not be winning.
It puts us in a place where my recommendation, and I would love for us to start thinking about how do we work with those elected officials in the State House to really look at the formula for funding of roads in Indianapolis. And so I would just want to put that out there for the public to know that we're looking at cutting the non-exempt, as you stated in your proposal, departments by 50% by 2029.
Based. And here's the thing. Democrats are dopes, all right? They have no solution to this other than raising taxes. They're going to give more money to the welfare queens. They're going to give more money to these stupid programs that aren't helping anything. And then there's somehow they're still going to blame Republicans instead of looking in the mirror and saying, I fucked up. But they don't want to take any accountability. That's why every Democrat-run city is a shithole. That's why you have over 8,000 people that have left Indianapolis, and it's not the people that are making minimum wage, my man. It is people that have a lot more money, and they're like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I will move to Hamilton County, I will move to Johnson or Hendricks or wherever, and I'm getting the fuck out of Indianapolis because the city does not care about me. The city only cares about wasting more money and taking care of the criminals.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions from our colleagues? Councilor Bain?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Perkins. I agree. It's very difficult. It's a really tough position. It would not be a fun time on the council for the next,
I don't know. For me, it would be
probably 5 to 10 years for us to get this under control. But when you look at the fact, our city's over 200 years old, and if you look at a snapshot of 10 years of hard work and dedication, that we could do something over the next decade that the city's never done before, and we could actually leave a better city than we inherited. And I think this is the first step. It's the first bite at the apple. It doesn't get us exactly where we need to be overnight, but we can get there. It is tough, though, and I want to recognize the fact that, again, it's for me, it's not a reflection on the other departments. It's just a simple fact that, for me, the two basic functions of city government, infrastructure and public safety, have to be fully funded, and they have to be our top priority.
That's like the main role of government, is public safety and infrastructure. And here's the deal too. Josh Bain, Councilor Bain, keeps talking about the difficult decisions that we have to make. And you know who's willing to make those decisions and take the arrows, take the heat from the public? Republicans. Republicans are, I'm going to say Indianapolis Republicans. You guys can make your own decisions on everything else. Indianapolis Republicans are willing to make those hard decisions, and Democrats are feminine. They don't want to make the hard decisions. That's why they have no emotional intelligence. They're just like, oh my God, we got to do something. They freak out. They don't know what to do. They're like a chicken with its head cut off. And they're saying, well, actually, we have to be real soft. We have to be real passive aggressive and feminine about everything, because they are soft. They are limp wristed. The fedora tipping soy boys. Femboy nationalism, basically.
Thank you. Before we move on to the public comment of the evening, our clerk will read a statement.
He can be heard. He's speaking with disruption.
Yep. You wearing a blanket?
Thank you. Consent. Anyone wishes to speak to proposal number 306? Please come forward to the podium. State your name. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Greg West. I'm a resident of Marion County. I have heard the PCI report numbers that grade the condition and quality of our roads, and usually when I hear those...
I actually wanted to go and speak at this thing, but the problem is it starts at 5:30, and I have zero time to get over there and would make a public statement. Plus, like, I don't think you want me making a public statement. That whole council does not like me. I know Kristin Jones and Carlino and McCormick do not like me. And if they are watching any of these videos, guess what? I don't like you either. I think you're scum.
It's in a group of people, public type setting, and someone in the public will catch on that there's a city county council person or somebody from the city there, and they want to tell them about the condition of our roads. And that story doesn't usually go very far down the road, no pun, before the TCI study comes up. And then with it comes the dollars associated with changing from, bad to fair. It might exceed the whole city budget and the city of Indianapolis. And so it seems impossible. It's just a buzzkill when that comes up in a room. It's just silence. It just seems impossible. There's nowhere to go. I hope that the city county council and the DPW and the mayor's office don't see it as impossible. It's tough. I get it. We all get it. It's very tough. But we hope that you at least see that it's worth the vote now, not to approve, but just to continue it, the discussion.
That's all we're doing. We're
to the
just
next level.
talking
And that
about
would
it,
be
man.
what you'd be voting for. I don't know where I don't see a clock. Where am I at? Good. I've got two quick personal stories. One, I'm a realtor. We talk to people from here, there, and everywhere. They come, they don't care if they're moving sometimes to Plainfield or Greenwood or Marion County. We drive them everywhere, and they say, what in the world happens at the county line? What is going on here? It looks like Escape from New York. You know, it's just some of these roads are genuinely unsafe. And we forget because we live here. But it's good to hear that
we forgot
for
how
us. It's
shitty
a
it
reminder
is until
when
we go
hear
into
that
other
from people
counties. We're like,
elsewhere.
why can't we be like this?
Second, I lost my dad last year. Mom, after some time, decided to take Dad's car out just to blow out the carbon, make sure everything was good. She left her home in Fishers, went down to see Aunt Becky on the east side, pop, there goes a tire. She hit a chuck hole at 21st and Post Road. So I helped her, and I said, you know, it's a good thing to take Dad's car out, but it's got those 50 series tires, not extreme, just the high-performance tires. Maybe just leave it up there in Fishers and bring your Volvo down here with the big fat tires when you come to visit us in Marion County. So that's my 2 cents in 2 minutes. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you for being here.
Well done, sir.
Good evening. My name is Luke Schmidt, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to come here tonight. And I thank and commend each and every one of you for your willingness to serve and represent the people from your district. I know it's not a easy job always, and you're in tough position, and that there's decisions to be made. And I'm going to let you guys figure it out amongst yourself on how it's funded. All I can say is, and I came here tonight to know that something needs to be done with the road and the infrastructure. I have, in my career, there's probably not roads that I can count on my 10 fingers that I haven't been on in Marion County. And in my 32 years of driving those roads, they just gradually seem to have gotten worse.
Wow.
I don't want to sit here and say that I've been on several mission trips in other third world countries, and it'd be unfair to say that we're at that level, but it seems instead of moving away from them, we're kind of backtracking over to 32 years and getting more close to some third world countries and their roads and infrastructure. And however you guys and gals come up with a way to fund it, something needs to be done. I think Indianapolis can do better, deserves to do better, and just hear that something needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Guy Linville, Marion County. I disagree with one thing that Mr. Bain has said today, and he said it about 6 times, that it'd be difficult decisions to cut, I guess, non-essential departments. I guess it would be if the infrastructure was already taken care of, if it was already at least standard, par, but it's in absolute shambles. It's to the point where the city's not safe. It's not safe to drive. It's not safe to walk down the sidewalk. It's never been worse as long as I've lived here, and I've lived here for 30 years, 35 years. We have to fix that first, and then we can worry about what non-essential departments we keep. Once everything is back to being safe, then we can go back to picking and choosing which departments we want to keep and not, but not until the city's safe. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is a great point, too. When you have EMS, you have IMPD, Sheriff's Department, any of these emergency services, and if the roads are jacked up, what happens if they blow out a tire? What happens if they break a tie rod on the way to an emergency call or on the way to the hospital? You will have these people in this upper section right here, these clowns will have nobody but to blame themselves because they didn't even want to have the conversation. You want to see how...
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Scott Zerzy. I live in Wayne Township on the west side in the Claremont area. So I live out there and I work downtown. So I drive the roads twice a day, pretty much every day to get to work and home. And I know that on the issue of our roads, we have not been prioritizing them as they should be. It is definitely baked into the current budget that our roads are going to get worse in the coming years. We have not allocated enough money to be able to take care of them. And people who visit the city do notice that. And our job here, I think, part of it is that we want to be welcoming to visitors. With I-69 now being completed, we're going to see even more visitors to the city and opportunities to host events and have people visiting. And I think that it is very incumbent on us to want to have more of these visitors and tourists come to downtown and come to visit our townships. And I do not think that we are meeting the standard for our roads for quite some time now. And it is very important to measure ourselves against other cities and how we are attracting those visitors, those tourists, those dollars. And having an adequate road system is definitely incumbent on that. And yeah, we cannot wait for the state to change their funding formula. We can whine and cry about it from now until eternity. I know that Josh and other people will certainly be down there at the State House to do that, but we cannot count on the state to be able to do that. But we do have the resources here in Indianapolis to be able to take care of ourselves. We do have the means to be able to keep our roads up to a minimum standard. And I stand with Councilor Bain, and I hope you will too. Thank you.
Here's the other thing too. You know what they'll say, right? It's like, well, you know, when you have tourists come in, the roads are all messed up, and then the rebuttal from Democrats will say, well, that's why we have Indigo. They can just take public transportation, and guess what? I don't want to be stuck in an aluminum box with a bunch of crackheads that are willing to set me on fire. No thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm not real great off the cuff, so I wrote down a few things, if that's okay.
State your name, sir.
My name's Josh Mascalier. I'm a longtime resident of Marion County. I live in Decatur Township, just inside 465, near Man Road. I also serve on the Decatur Township Board, elected in 2020. And I wanted to be here this evening to support Proposal 306 to increase the city's road repair budget. We all know the dire state of our roads, so I don't think that needs to be further mentioned by me. We all see when we leave the city limits, when we go into a donut town, suddenly the roads improve, I mean, greatly. And we all have personal stories and know people who have had varying degrees of accidents due to hitting potholes. So much personal property damage occurs to people's cars all the time. Most people don't have the extra money to fix this damage. People go broke, they miss work, just because the roads they drive on don't work for them. A lot of people don't know that there's a method to report the damage, but we know that a lot of times, and most of the time, that gets denied. This proposal has me genuinely excited. I'm optimistic that something can finally be done about this massive problem, and I sincerely hope you will pass this proposal for the sake of road safety and everybody's safety on the roads. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fine job. The Kristin Jones got money from Matt Pleasant too, $50, but whatever.
Hi, my name is Mark Wagner. I've traveled these roads for in excess of 40-some years. I recently worked for a service company, and we used to service buildings. The roads have gotten into the shape where we actually, over the last 5 years, had to factor in for our maintenance to take care of our vehicles. We travel all over the city to take care of buildings, which is kind of ironic that we had to figure that in for our costs. It's something needs to be done, and that's why I wanted to show up and support Proposal 306. Thank you for your time, and would like for you to consider it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget, this is just continues the conversation. That's literally it. Nobody's voting on anything. Like nothing official anyways. Like, hey, we're just going to keep talking about this. Maybe this plan doesn't work, but at least we could start talking about how to fund DPW a little bit better. How do we get the roads fixed? Because at the end of the day, that's what
Hi,
matters.
my name's Shelley Engel, and I live in Marion County, Franklin Township, to be specific. And I'm in support of this proposal. Again, like the second gentleman said, I don't really care how you figure out the budget. There's money there. I know I pay my taxes as many others do. I don't want them raised. But as far as the roads go, I mean, I would describe Franklin Township as driving on square tires. There are no shoulders. You cannot avoid these potholes, these rough edges, you know, if a car's coming at you or something. And so it's just a constant wear and tear on your car and really on you physically, and the noise. For the last 9 years, I've been a flight nurse, and I've flown patients all over the 48 states, so I travel to many other states, Idaho, Florida, I don't come across roads that are in the condition that we have here in Marion County.
Chicago.
So I would really like for these roads to be repaired, and I do appreciate everything that you've put into this, and I appreciate you all listening. And I kind of had a thought when I think it's Ms. McCormick stated that I guess the exempt and non-exempt that would exclude, if I understood correctly, the EMS would not be included in the non-exempt, correct? Well, maybe not, but let me just say, if we don't have decent roads, decent bridges, then it really doesn't matter if we have an EMS system because they can't get to you anyway.
There we go.
So thank you very much.
Boom. What'd I just say?
Anyone
W.
else in the public who wishes
W.
to speak?
I am Anthony Parks, Decatur Township. I'm asking today to support this proposal. Every year, our roads are underfunded, and I don't know how many times I've spoken with DPW people who tell me the state is not changing their formula, but we cannot keep kicking this can down the road. I'm asking the City County Council support this to demonstrate a commitment to safe infrastructure in the future of Indianapolis. There is an economic multiplier effect to this investment, and not supporting this, I believe, would be incredibly short-sighted and counterproductive to the growth and future of this city. Thank you.
Thank you.
W.
Anyone else from the public?
You see that? You see Gibson having to tell his kid to chill out?
Hi, my name is Tom Sipes, and I currently live downtown Indianapolis. I wrote a few things down, but I was born here, and I've lived here all my life. And I do a lot of traveling now that I'm retired, which is great. And I agree with the lady sitting behind me. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. But I did a lot of traveling this year. I was in 18 different states. I was in Idaho, all over the West. And when I came back into Indiana, the first thing I noticed was orange cones and potholes and paved over holes and bumps in the road. And
everywhere.
I truly can say 18 states, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and even West Virginia, which I would think West Virginia would be far behind Indiana. But our roads were by far the worst. And I don't know how you're going to correct it. I don't know if you can, but like pretty much everybody else has said, we have to do something. We're going to start losing people from our state, not just our counties, and we're not going to be attracting new companies and new people to live here. Who would want to live here with these kinds of roads?
That's why they're moving.
So I want to really, really encourage you to try to find a way to compromise, do something to come up with a way to fix the roads in the county, not just in the city, but in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
You know, that's a good point about compromise. Democrats keep saying that Republicans need to compromise. We need to do this. What about the supermajority? Well, now we do have a supermajority in the council, and Democrat councilors do not even want to compromise on continuing the conversation of how we're going to fix the roads, how we're going to fund DPW on fixing the roads. So these, 8 councilors, you're all crap, you're all trash, you're all scum.
Thank you all.
So Kristin Jones, who got money from Thomas Cook, Jessica McCormick, who got money from Thomas Cook, Carlino, who got money from Thomas Cook. Listen, you're the worst.
For taking your time to come down here this evening. Appreciate it. Any other comments or questions? Leader Mallory.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're at a tough spot right now with our roads and our infrastructure, and I don't think it's any secret of anybody. We've heard everyone here tonight state the same. And we can hope and wish and dream that the state would do something about the road funding, but at the end of the day, we all know deep in our hearts that that's not going to happen. They're not going to change the road funding and to make it equitable as it should be. It's going to continue to be kicked down the road and saying, well, we'll look at it, we'll look at it, we'll look at it. We have an opportunity tonight to do something and make something happen. And I think it'd be of the utmost importance for all of us to try to make that happen. And I don't see where we can possibly argue that the roads don't need the attention that they so deservedly need. One of the things I heard from a few people about the IEMS budget being cut, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe from after last night's budget hearing, that would fall under OPHS. Is that correct? Is what we heard last night?
Councilor
IEMS.
McCormick has an answer.
IEMS is actually under HHC, not OPHS. So I guess that
Okay.
would, so that's part of Immunity Corps.
Okay, thank you. Regardless, I think what we need to remember too is IEMS is only going to be so effective until their tire blows out because they hit a pothole on the road. It's a service that we need. It's a service that is deservedly equally important. However, they have to be able to maintain their vehicles. Many of the city vehicle fleet cars are having the same issues that we all have, and they're hitting potholes. They're blowing tires. Their cars are going out of alignment from these potholes. And we have the opportunity tonight to do something about it. I would encourage my councilor colleagues to vote in favor of 306 to show that as a body we are really trying to take this serious and do something about this issue. Thank you.
Councilor Bain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just did want to confirm, or at least clarify, that municipal corporation budgets are separate from the city budget. Like Health and Hospital Corporation budget we heard last night was, I think it was over $2 billion. Obviously, our city budget's $1.6 billion, so it is separate. And I do want to thank everybody for coming down tonight. It means the world. And I think it's been probably the most impactful public testimony I've seen in the 4 years that I've been on the council. And in light of that, I'd like to move the proposal 306 go to the full council with a do pass recommendation.
Second.
So it looks like she does not have her mic on.
Okay, are we doing him? All those in favor, raise your hand for aye. Opposed, raise your hand for nay.
All right, you see those people right there? These are the people that voted no on trying to fix the roads in Indianapolis. These are the people that voted no to give DPW more money to get the roads fixed. And remember, Kristin Jones, McCormick, and Carlino all got money from Thomas Cook. And is Kristin Jones on the committee? I'm not sure, but McCormick and Carlino are definitely on the committee to do the investigation on Hawkset and the handling of the Thomas Cook situation. So, you know, they're all trash. Just remember, all 7 of these people are trash. Carlos Perkins also trash, because I'm sure he would have voted no on it as well.
The motion fails to carry. We do pass recommendation to the full council. Unless this committee has further business before the committee, I would accept the motion to adjourn.
Carlino's already out of here. Just a disgusting creature. Just a disgusting person, Carlino and McCormick. I mean, if I were Mike Young, I would be saying it's like McCormick voted no on fixing the roads, on supplying more money to DPW to fix the roads. 100%, you know. Let's not forget, all right? This is why she doesn't post anything on Facebook. Or, well, I mean, not on Facebook, on Twitter, because then she'd be able to be called out. This is why she doesn't want to debate Mike Young either. Just a bunch of cowardly scumbag people. But anyway, that's all I got. I wanted to do the education one. I can't do it today, but man, it's a long one. So long. we'll see if we can get it done. Probably not. And a good chance that I will not be at the full council meeting on Monday, but we'll see what happens. But until next time.